Hey everybody, welcome to this week's Roundup. I am really excited because this weekend is Retro World Expo in Hartford, Connecticut, and there is going to be so much cool stuff there. Steve from RetroTech is going to be bringing some restored and refurbished CRTs there for sale, which is really cool because that's a rare chance to be able to get one of those restored from someone. But there's also going to be amazing vendors, so many cool people hanging out, and the RetroRGB section where you'll find most of us hanging out is just going to have a lot of awesome people popping in and out that you're definitely going to recognize. So without a doubt, come over and hang out. I'm also bringing a bunch of stuff for sale that I probably should just be selling on eBay, but I thought it would be fun to bring there too for anybody who wants it. So I'll leave a video at the end of this one. I'll leave a couple clips just to explain it. And please hit me up in advance if you know for sure you want any of it so I can put it aside for you. We'll just start the conversation in the comments and go from there or something. But I don't know, I'm just pumped. This is exciting and fun, and I can't wait to see all of you. But let's jump in and see what's been going on in the next week. First up, Mike Chi just released his latest HD15 console adapter, this time for the PlayStation 2. And this is specifically a YPBPR, so component video adapter, that essentially just breaks the signal out to a D-sub connector, or HD15 or VGA style or whatever you want to call it. So basically, if you have a consumer-grade CRT with RCA inputs, stick to HD Retrovision cables. They're just plug and play and they're awesome. However, if you have something like a VGA switch that you want to go into, or some Extron equipment, or I guess if you want to go direct into a PVM or something like that, these might be easier because then you could just pick up one of the D-sub to BNC cables and have everything plugged directly in, or just a standard VGA cable if you're using a VGA switch. So basically, these aren't for everybody, but if this fits your use case, it's going to be the best solution out there. For a lot of other people, the HD Retrovisions are still it. And for some people, RGB SCART might still work as well. Just remember that the PlayStation 2 does have a few 480p games, and if you're using RGB SCART, that would be Sync on Green, which, depending on your setup, could be a royal pain or not. Could just be a very easy thing to pass through. But if you're interested, links to everything are right here. And if you want to know more about the RetroTINK RGB cables, please check out the launch video I did a while back, because that should put all of this into perspective with all my usual visual examples and everything else. So links for everything are right there in the post. The Sega Saturn game Dragon Ball Z The Legend now has a full English translation thanks to one single translator, Wonder Inc. Wonder Inc. spent about 2 years doing this and was able to get help from Petito, the developer behind a Spanish language patch for the same game. Overall, the game is totally able to be completed, although there are still some issues that they weren't able to make it into this patch, namely the title card rendering in story mode, but it should be able to, or you should be able to complete the game without any issues, and they're still kind of looking into what else could be done for it. Also, none of the voice acting has been changed. So it still has the original Japanese voice samples, just all of the text is in English. So I think this is an awesome way to experience the game. And as I always say, I just really, really appreciate all of the efforts that go into this. Whether it's a game I would play or not, doesn't matter. I still get really excited and really thankful to anybody who spends the time doing this, because there are a ton of Dragon Ball Z fans, and I think a bunch would really like to experience this game in English. So thanks to Wonder Inc. Thanks to Petito for doing it in Spanish. And if you want anything, all of the links are right here in Gregory's post. And welcome to the team, by the way. Thanks for your contribution. A few months ago, we talked about a project from developer EG Room that wanted to know what if Outrun was ported to the Game Boy Color. So they ported a few levels over and kind of got it working more like a tech demo, but that game was now finished, and every one of the tracks is now ported over to the Game Boy Color, as well as a complete version of the soundtrack from Sloopy Goop. And I was able to play it right in the browser, which you can do if you go right to the page, and it looked and sounded awesome. It was exactly what you would expect a high quality conversion of the game over to the handheld to be. Now, of course, we have to put things into context. Today, we could fire up an emulator on our phones and play a near perfect version of Outrun, the original arcade game. But that's not obviously what this is. This is a real conversion over to Game Boy Color to see what it would have been like for a period era ROM for that console, or the handheld. And in that context, this is really, really awesome. So thanks to everybody who did this. And Also, shout out to Xanic DC for doing this really cool box art, which I used as the thumbnail. That's just available to download if anybody wants it. But that looks straight out of the 90s, exactly what you would have expected if this game was ported over. And also, the developer also just posted that if you press left, 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 left on the title screen, you'll open the music debug menu. So left 4 times. Which is just like a fun hidden, music test menu. But this was really cool. I'm really happy I got a chance to see it. And if you're a fan of the game, or just really, if you have the ability to run ROMs on a Game Boy Color, give this a try. Because while it can't be the best version of the game, obviously running on limited hardware, I think anybody who has experience with this stuff would really appreciate what went into it and have a fun time playing it. High quality Nintendo 64 replacement shells are now back in stock at Stone Age Gamer, and you could even get 15% off if you use the coupon code that we put in the post. You all know how I feel about coupon codes, but whatever. I'm always going to give them to you if I have the ability to get them, because why wouldn't I want to save you some money? But these, to be clear, are not those low quality AliExpress ones just being resold from a local vendor. These are the ones made from scratch by Trogtech, and they always had quality in mind. And the kits come with basically everything you'd need, including a notched AV port. So if you just want this as an analog, just keep everything analog out like stock, or if you have an RGB mod, everything will look totally fine. But if you do have an HDMI mod installed, it's pre-notched, so you would be able to cut it out a lot easier to have a much cleaner installation. Also, if you're one of those people like me who does not ever like cutting stock consoles and you want an HDMI mod for your N64, this is perfect. You got a ton of colors to choose from. The prices pre-coupon code start at $65, and some of the other ones get to be pretty expensive. And the explanation for that was just simply the quantities made of each. And that makes sense to me, because when you're getting injection molded plastics done, you have to have a minimum order of certain things. And while some companies will let you mix and match with the colors, when you start to get a combination of stuff like this, I understand how it could be more expensive, especially if painting is involved, because painting is not nearly as easy as it sounds. With a pro place or in your backyard with a spray paint can, it always takes a lot of effort. So the more expensive ones are more expensive because they cost more to make. But there's a lot of really awesome colors and color combinations in the cheapest one. So just take a look at the link, see which ones you want. They all should still be in stock, and I think this is the best replacement case for your N64. Links to everything are right here, and it's cool to see these back in stock and ready to go. The Fenrir Lite optical drive emulator for the Sega Saturn just got a firmware update that added exFAT support and fixed a couple of different issues, including game list issues for folders that had more than 50 games in them. So if you have a Fenrir Lite, this is obviously a no-brainer. Just update the firmware, get these fixes in there. I think there was some issues with VIO and VIA1 support as well, but that should all be taken care of with this one. And if you don't have a Fenrir Lite, this is an optical drive emulator for the Saturn that's just as featured as the original Fenrir and should be, at least now with this firmware update, compatible with all of the different consoles revisions, but it's only about $60 US, give or take whatever the conversion rates are and everything. So it's definitely an affordable way to get homebrew running on your Saturn. And the original Fenrir performed really well. And while there's still a few things to work out in this one, it seems to be right on par with that. So thanks very much to SED for making a cheaper version of this and allowing more people to have access to Saturn homebrew at a cheaper price. And once again, if you already have one of these, definitely just update the firmware on it. I just did a deep dive live stream testing the analog video out of the Mr. Multi-System 2, and overall, I have mostly good things to say. So please stick around. I'm going to spit out just the basic overview, and then I'll let you know when I get into the details, so you could skip to the next section if you're bored by the tech stuff. But basically, the Mr. Multi-System 2 is one motherboard that has both the DE10 and a high-quality 24-bit I/O board built into it. As far as functionality and looks go, it's absolutely awesome. It's got a ton of features. Hopefully other reviewers will dig in and give you a full overview of what to get, but I wanted to concentrate on the analog video output. Another quick note, HDMI output is going to be perfect on all of them because it's all digital. It's either going to work or not, basically. And the HDMI only version should be excellent in absolutely every way. The analog output version has excellent quality RGB out from the D-sub, the VGA style port, and the component video out, if it's compatible with your CRT, should be equally as good. But there are some issues with component video compatibility, or potential issues, I should say, and there are definite issues with the mini DIN. So here's where I'm going to dig into the details. If you don't care about any of this stuff, please skip to the next section, or if you're only going to use HDMI out or only going to use the D-sub with RGB, there's no reason to stick around unless you're a fellow nerd. But here we go. So first, I did a live stream with Kuro, whose knowledge and detailed analysis of all of these different DACs for the Mister has been everybody's go-to in the retro scene. So thanks so much to Kuro for taking the time to do this live stream with me, to double check my work, and for all of the work that he's been doing. Links to Kuro's work is in here too, of course. But after the live stream, the next day, I redid everything, not because I didn't trust our work, but because in a live stream, I'm trying to have visual examples, I'm trying to show things, I don't want to spend 5 minutes dialing in little scope things that don't really make a difference. So I went back the next day and I redid everything with 75 ohm termination and via expensive BNC connectors instead of the monitor, so I can get less interference and more exact readings. And I confirmed everything we found the day before. So there was no discrepancies that weren't definitely related to the monitor I was using. And what I found was that the voltage levels on RGBS from the D-sub connector were absolutely excellent. And since I have 2 of these here that I'm borrowing to test, I was able to test both, and both tested exactly the same. And both were great. So that's good. That's consistency between revisions, or just between manufacturing runs here. So 1 manufacturing run, 2 out of the same run, both performed exactly the same. That's a really good sign. And all of the voltages were great. The voltage is on sync is high via the D-sub connector because it should be. You should always be using a D-sub to SCART cable or adapter that has a resistor on the sync line, because if you're going direct into any kind of VGA or D-sub equipment, that is actually the correct voltage. So all of that is totally fine. Also, we tested IRE on all 3 channels as well as the gray ramp. Everything looked like it lined up great. There was no complaints whatsoever there. The voltage and brightness balance between all of them is exactly what you would expect. This is really just a super high quality DAC built right into this thing. So the latest one from Mr. Add-ons and the last couple from Ivory Retro Castle have also been good. And this is right up there with them. So equal to or better than, but better than we're splitting hairs at this point. Well, we'll just call them all equal because they're all absolutely excellent. There was, switching over to component video though, the video voltages were all fine. Everything looked great. The differences between the luminance in each step looked like about what it should be. I'm not as smart as Steve, and I don't understand the formula he uses to calculate it, but eyeballing it, it did match up with all of the other stuff that we'd previously confirmed were good, with one discrepancy. So when you have component video, luminance, so the brightness and sync are both on the green cable to it. And the sync voltage was very, very low in that scenario. And it worked on my PVMs, but that doesn't really mean anything because my PVMs are generally very, very compatible and forgiving. So I don't know if it would be compatible with your consumer grade CRT. The voltage was about 44 millivolts for sync, probably a little bit less than that actually, because I was being generous in the measurement, and it's supposed to be around 250. It's supposed to be between 200 and 900, but 250 to 450 is usually what you see for component video. So what that means is nothing will harm your CRT if you plug this thing in, but it just might not work. You might plug it in and you might get a shaky screen or something like that. So there's no harm in trying. However, that's definitely something to note, because if your main use case for this is going to be a consumer CRT with component video inputs, it may or may not work. I spoke to Richard over at Heber, and they're still waiting to hear back, or I'm still waiting to hear back on the reasons for this and if I missed anything, but I didn't miss any of the basics. The jumper settings, the sync on green switch obviously would be right, otherwise it wouldn't sync at all. I did test it all, of course, and it's the exact same on both of the units I have. So I don't know what this could be. I don't know if it's something on the board, something that could be fixed, or it could just be a non-issue. You could just plug it into your CRT and it works totally fine. I did verify though that, you know, a normal voltage. I plugged a Genesis 2 via HD Retrovision cables into the mini DIN and got about 300 millivolts. Usually I'd see about 250. So just to kind of as compare and contrast and proof that, yeah, there is an issue, but it may or may not matter for everybody. And hopefully the team will get it figured out. Now, the only downside is the only reason to use the Genesis 2 style mini DIN that's built in is if you have a PAL SCART CRT that requires voltage on the SCART line in order to enable RGB, which is most of them. Some have menus like an OSD you can go into, but there's a bunch of problems with this. First of all, there's no signal at all going to the C-Sync pin on the multi-out, which is definitely a mistake because in the scenario of the Mr. Multi system, you would never ever need to access composite video and sync pins at the same time because there is no composite coming out of it. You should be getting C-Sync from both. So if you wanted to, you could try to jump them together, but then it might not even work because the voltage on the C-Sync line wouldn't be as high as it should. But essentially that means 90% of the well-made Genesis 2 RGB SCART cables out there can't work with this. So immediately that just kind of goes out the window. And that was definitely a mistake, but it gets a little worse. The voltage was extremely low and also the same on both units. So it wasn't just a bum unit. It was 584 millivolts. So in the context of things, it's not that bad. You could turn up the brightness on your CRT if you really needed to, and it should be okay. But if you have a bunch of different consoles plugged in via a switch to that CRT, you're going to really notice it. Because if you go from playing, you know, PlayStation 2 and then you switch over to this thing, it's going to drop in brightness. So that was kind of a bummer. But with the VGA port right there next to it, there's no reason to use this unless you absolutely have to have a PAL SCART CRT that requires voltage. And you could just get one of those SCART sense injectors from Consoles for You, or you could just run it through a powered SCART switch. That would totally solve the problem too. So then you could just use the D-sub connector, you know, D-sub to SCART into a SCART switch and the SCART switch into your PAL CRT. So basically, don't use the Genesis 2 mini DIN on the Mr. Multi-System 2 at all, unless you absolutely have to, unless you're going direct into it, and then you'd have to buy a custom cable. I talked to Richard about this, and Richard is always really, really serious about getting the best out of Heber's products. So he took all of our findings seriously. He's looking into all of this stuff. He's debating what to do about it. But, you know, mistakes happen. And when it comes to a project of this volume, because this was a big deal, integrating all of this thing into one, having all this functionality built right in, mistakes are going to happen. And of all the mistakes that could have been made, I think this one's totally fine because you have another option right there, literally right next to it that accomplishes everything that you would need. So yeah, that was kind of a mistake, but my conclusions on this haven't changed at all. It's absolutely awesome. I really love it. I think it's an excellent, excellent consoleized Mister that actually looks like a console, not just like a science project, which, look, no shade thrown. It was amazing that we were able to take this dev kit, the DE10, and turn it into what it's become. But this looks and feels like a console. So once again, if you're getting the HDMI only version, nothing at all to worry about. If you're using RGB and you're going either through a SCART switch or just directly into displays that don't require voltage in the SCART head, also no problem whatsoever. The D-sub connector is, the RGB lines off of that is perfect. If you're using component video, cross your fingers and hope it works. And I would just skip the mini DIN altogether. But still an awesome piece of hardware for a very fair and reasonable price. And I still think this is a top recommendation. And check out the live stream if you want. But what I just said really summed up everything in a much shorter period of time. And of course, the post here has all the scope plots and everything else if you want to see for yourself. The developer Cosmic Scale has just posted an update to his full translation enhancement of the PlayStation Broadband Navigator, PSBBN, And it has a bunch of updates and changes to it, including the ability to update right from the software itself. So if you're using this, absolutely check out the changelog and just go through the processes to update it, because future updates should be much easier from here on. And if you're not sure what this is, Tito from Macho Nacho Productions did a really awesome video about it. But basically, it's a full OS replacement for the PlayStation 2 based on the Japanese only release, but fully translated with homebrew and other awesome enhancements in mind. Tito's video really did better than I could possibly do, so I'm going to just say watch that one for if you want to know everything about what PSBBN is, and then check out Cosmic Scale's video if you want all the details on the update and all the little changes, and the links to absolutely everything are right here in the post. So very cool news for PS2 owners, because this just looks like an awesome alternative menu system. Tito from Macho Nacho Productions just released a video on the Easy Flash Air, which is a Game Boy Advance ROM cart that's only $40, but still pretty functional. The only main feature that it's missing is save state support. So if you don't use save states, that's pretty much the biggest thing that doesn't work right on it. And there are a few other quirks and differences from the other Easy Flash models. So Tito's video goes through and shows you the comparisons of everything that you would need to know, and whether this is something that would be a fit for you. I've used the Easy Flash products before, and I gotta say, they've come a long way. The last time I remember using them, before the last time before last, it was a lot clunkier, and it wasn't overall as good of an experience. But the last time I tried one, I believe it was the Definitive Edition or something like that, worked really well. I'm still a fan of Crix's ROM carts. I know they're a bit more expensive, but I like the overall flow of them. I like how they work, and I like how everything's just kind of really easy to get working. Whereas this is still pretty easy, but there's a few things to note about it. The Easy Flash website has a fact that's worth reading if you want to know how to use it and some of the quirks about it. Tito goes through about some of this in the video as well, but they're good products. But $40 is an excellent, excellent price. So if you were looking to run ROMs on your Game Boy Advance, this is absolutely something to consider, and maybe just dig in a little deeper and see if you would rather have the more expensive, I think it's $100 for the Crix's X5 Mini, so the same exact size and shape as an original Game Boy Advance cart. But check it out, see if it's for you, and all the answers, or at least most of what you would need to know, should be in the video, and everything else you should be able to find on their website. Before I go, I want to spend a couple of minutes showing you what I will be bringing to Retro World Expo to sell. I'm going to talk about what I'm definitely bringing and what I could bring if it's something that you definitely want to buy and we just confirm in advance that you want me to drive it up there or meet you or something like that. But just a quick note, if you don't care about any of this, there's nothing after this. Drop off and I will see you next week. But if you're going to Retro World, stick around. Maybe there's at least one or two small things that you might be interested in. First of all, the big one, I don't want to, but I think I have to sell that 77-inch OLED because I want to get back into projector testing and I don't have the money to test both. So I would be willing to sell everything, the Philips Hue system, the C4 77-inch OLED. I have the stand for the TV and the box for it as well. I got it at a very good deal, so I would obviously sell it cheaper than that, but still not a cheap price, just cheaper than you could get it for from the big box stores, because it really doesn't have that many hours on it compared to an average living room TV that it's going to be on all, hours every day. I don't want to get rid of that one, but yeah, it's one of those things where I got no choice. I got no budget and I got no space for everything either. So seriously, if you want an amazing TV, let me know about that one. I'm not taking it off the wall until I get actual confirmation though. And the Philips Hue thing, that video got like no views. Y'all got to give it a chance. Honestly, it might not be for everybody, but it is really awesome. I could always take the Hue off and sell that on eBay if you're not interested in that. But there are a few other things. So I'm going to just switch you over to a different video now and kind of walk you through it. The whole TV stand I'd be willing to sell, but I think what's really important that people might want to buy is when I did that 2.0 audio video, this is the doors with the glass removed and speaker material put in, so that you could actually have the speakers in the stand and put the stereo in the middle, and then you could have an amazing 2-channel experience through that. I'll leave a link to the video. This is just a Besta TV stand from IKEA. So I could totally just ship those 3, and I have the original hardware that goes with it and extra speaker material too. I'd include all of that stuff, so you could just bolt it right in. If you're local and you just wanted to guarantee that it matches 100%, I'd sell the TV stand and just pick up another cheap one in its place. But even if you wanted me to ship it, I could do those doors. And yeah, I know you could just order these and do it yourself, but are you going to pay full price for those doors, smash the windows out, clean all the glass out as OCD as I normally would, add the speaker material, or do you just want to buy it pre-done for less than you can get it for? So I have a black Wii complete in box with everything that it came with, totally unmodified. There's no soft mod to it, and it's the one with the GameCube ports. And it has everything in the box, no component video cable, but it comes with the composite. This is the Nunchuk adapter that is also sealed. I pulled up on this to try to open it up and realized it had never been opened before. Also sealed is a Wii Fit Plus. I also have one of these, which I honestly don't know what it is. Harry told me to buy it, and then a couple months later, he's like, no, you don't need it. So I don't even know what that is. I got a Pile cassette player, which I like the sound of it. It sounds analog. It sounds like what you would want if you were to listen to a cassette today. I have a Sony VCR, one of my spares that works great. Does not have S-Video, though. This is composite only, but still works really well. This is a Thunderbolt 4 PCI Express adapter. I think it's Thunderbolt 3 and 4. And this one has a Noctua fan added, so it is way quieter than the stock one. It comes with power supply. I got 4K Gamer Pro and a couple of the M Classics. I have a Dell 5x4 LCD monitor, which, you know, on the one hand, it's like, okay, it's a 5x4 monitor, but if you use this with Mister will compensate so it has the correct aspect ratio with just a little bit of black bars on the sides, and obviously it rotates. So this is a really great, cheap monitor that you might want to consider if you're coming up to the area. This is a 4-out composite video amplifier, that distribution amp, so it could also split composite. It's Extron 203 RXI and an Extron VSC 500. Both of those are tested and working. And here's a Mitsubishi DiamondPlus 200. This was my spare monitor that I was using for a while. The only downside is the screen is a bit dim on it. It's not too super bad, but this was featured in a bunch of my videos. And this case is a little bit yellowed, but that goes up to really high refresh rates. That even did 1080p 96, and I'm sure it could even do other stuff like definitely 480p 120, but probably others as well. I also have a Switch 2 box. That's right, just the box. A friend of mine asked me to send them it, so you know, whatever you want the box for. And one of these 161-in-1 carts. This is the one that doesn't have the dangerous voltage, but it's still just a meh cart. I also have a freeze pipe for sale. I'm not really comfortable showing this, so look it up if you're interested. But let's just say it's geared more towards the connoisseur and not the casual dabbler. So I could bring that up with a smell-proof case if you want. This thing is only used twice, and it's amazing, but this is for the enthusiast, not for the me's of the world. So let me know if you're interested in that. I also have two 3D TVs for sale. Two that are very, very different. This one is a 50-inch Panasonic Plasma. It has a new power board in there because those are kind of known to go in these. And I also have a second new power board just in a box in case this one ever goes again. It has 3 working pairs of 3D glasses, and I have a fourth that probably just needs a battery replaced. Has the original remote control and the power cable, and this is an amazing TV for like PS3 and Xbox 360 3D games. 3D movies too. You know, if you're huge into 3D movies, you probably want a projector, but that is absolutely awesome. And it's in excellent condition. So that one isn't going to be cheap, but this one is. This is an LCD LED 40-inch 3D TV that I kind of bought as a gag. I bought it as a spare TV, but also just to test what 3D on LCDs are like. And if you'd never seen 3D before, you might think it's kind of cool, but if you ever see it next to this one, not so much. This will not be an expensive TV, though. And I believe I have the remote for it, as well as some 3D glasses that didn't work too well. I might have gotten the wrong ones. But yeah, everything together, that one would certainly not be expensive at all. And you're most likely going to be mostly using it just as a spare TV. But the 3D functionality is kind of fun to play around with. So both of those are definitely worth checking out. I got my Game Gear and the TV tuner as well. This is also going to be a weird one because this is the original screen because I wanted the original experience on this, but it's got a glass flat screen over it, so kind of better quality that way. It's the blue sports case, and it's in great condition. It was fully recapped, but nothing else done to it. So this is essentially a mint stock console. I got a couple of games for it, certainly nothing expensive or worth any money. And the TV tuner as well, which works great, which I showed off in a couple of different videos, actually. So yeah, if you're interested in that, shoot me an offer. But, you know, I assume most people would want one with the replacement screens. It would take a weird nut job like me to actually want the original screen on there. I just never use it. I'm not a handheld gamer, and I already put it in a couple videos, so I'd be willing to part with it. It also has a soft case, the official Game Gear case for it as well, if you're interested. And that is a 92-inch Elite Screens pull-down projector screen. That's fine. If you're serious about movies, this is not for you. In fact, you're probably going to want to look into a fixed frame screen. But if you're just casually using a projector and you want a nice big old 92-inch screen, that one was great. That was the one that was up on my rack and not really used that often. I think I paid like $140 for it, so I don't know, $70. Just take it for half or something like that. It's in as good a condition as cheap screens can be, but it's a cheap screen. So definitely have realistic expectations about that, because I definitely don't want anybody buying it expecting a perfect tab tension to pull down. You're getting a $70 screen. But if you're just messing around with projectors, it's actually going to be a fun one to pick up. And lastly, for really serious buyers only, I have a mint condition PVM. This is a 20 M2 MDU that's in great condition, and also an XM29. I don't really want to sell either of those, to be honest with you. I just, you know, I could certainly use the budget for a bunch of other projects I want to work on. And if this is your dream displays and you have the cash to spend on it, let me know. I could sell the full rolling rack, and this whole thing has a G-Comp switch and a converter and a wireless to Ethernet adapter. So this is basically like its own rolling retro amazing station right here. And, you know, the PVM's in great shape. So I don't think I'll be parting with those. But if you know, for the right price and the right person, absolutely. I just kind of wanted to put that out there just in case, because, you know, I have a lot of projects that I want to do, and nobody that wants to sponsor me to do it. So figured I would just throw this out there just in case. And lastly, I believe the Brian Vega Algol's already spoken for, but just in case, I wanted to show it off. But to be honest, I really just wanted an excuse to put it in one more of my videos, because this thing is amazing. It is PAL only, except for the RGB SCART input. And that actually accepts PAL and NTSC at both 50 and 60 hertz. And I love this thing. I did a whole live stream showing it off. I did a whole post on it. And even just sitting here turned off, it looks amazing. But it actually works pretty perfectly too. So I just kind of wanted to show it off. But that's basically it. Just before I go, one last thing. I really, really hope somebody picks this thing up. I think when I did this idea, I thought it was going to just be a complete failure. And I was shocked at how good the sound was coming out of this thing. And just how such an awesome minimalist look it all was. So I will sell the doors cheap just for anybody that wants it, because I just want somebody else to experience it. And once again, if you want the full thing, we could figure that out too, just to make it easier. But don't sleep on that one. That is way more impressive than you would expect. And if you like a minimalist look of things, this is for you. And if not, whatever. But I just wanted to mention that again. But anyway, thank you to everybody who just kind of sat here and listened to me ramble about stuff I'm trying to peddle. I hope this didn't piss anybody off, but if it did, I'm probably never going to do it again, so don't worry about it. And as always, thank you for watching. Thanks for everybody who supports in absolutely any way, and I will see you very soon, I hope. This week's Roundup is brought to you by Neo Paradigm Entertainment, connecting Southeast Asian influencers with opportunities in the West.